What's going on, everyone? So, a little over like a week ago now, Zach Lavine was seen at a Clutch Pro Day in which he met up with LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and of course, that took the internet by storm. And a lot of people really ran with it. I made a video over on As It Stands Lakers about it. I even said then that I don't think it was that, right? Because the last time we saw something like this was the Russell Westbrook situation. I think that was like a summer league game. And people were like, nah, that ain't going to happen. And then fast forward, and all of a sudden, Russell Westbrook is a Laker. So I understood why people kind of like jumped to like, is there something here? Personally, I think it was just as straightforward and in line. Also, all the trade rumors about Zach Lavine around the trade deadline also was a good, valid reason. But personally, I don't think it was like a something that's like, this is a sign or a signal that leads to Zach Lavine being a Laker. However, I don't think it's crazy and far-fetched to think that maybe the Lakers could look into a Zach Lavine trade. The reason I'm even talking about this again is because we got a report, Jovan Buha. Well, not really a report, kind of just like a, hey, this is the deal with Zach Lavine. He was doing like a Q&A, and somebody asked a question, right? So Zach Lavine was intrigued, and we know for a fact, I mean, he said it in an interview a couple years ago that he wants to play with the Lakers and LeBron James and Anthony Davis, something that he's always wanted to do. Jovan Buha expressed even further that, like, hey, no, he is really intrigued with the idea of potentially teaming up in LA with those two. He makes a lot of sense for the Lakers and what the Lakers need, right? He got the athleticism out on the perimeter. Defensively, he's not as bad as people make him out to be. And he actually has had good seasons and good stretches where he can buy in on the defensive side, which I could see him potentially doing more because he doesn't have to handle as much of an offensive workload. Gives him a closer, a scorer, like that consistent third guy. Zach Lavine, I don't think is your best player on a championship team. Might not even be your second best player on a championship team. But as your third guy, that'd be tough. Watch out, right? His ability on catch and shoot, ability to finish around the rim, be explosive, right? Just provide some athleticism, which the Lakers desperately need. I do really like the idea of Zach Lavine. He's interested in it. He's a clutch guy. All signs kind of point to it. And there was a lot of hype around Zach Lavine going into the trade deadline. And then there were kind of the murmurs that like, hey, he might end up going to Detroit, and then all of a sudden he's like, I'm just going to go get surgery, right? And it just kind of felt like one of those things where it was like, if he would have been able to go to the Lakers, does he do that? Probably not, right? He probably comes back as expected, but since, it's like, Detroit might end up trading for me. It's like, maybe I'll take the surgery after all, because I'm not going to kill myself, especially if we're not competing for anything, right? So I understood that logic. I understood that idea. Now, I was somebody that was really high on the Lakers acquiring Zach Lavine around the trade deadline. Originally, I was in the camp of DeMar DeRozan, but then as soon as DeMar DeRozan was off the table, I just liked the idea of Zach Lavine because, again, he provided a lot of what the Lakers need, and I just think he would have been cheap, right? I don't think you would have had to break the bank in order to go get Zach Lavine. And that's kind of where I'm at right now with Zach Lavine, even going into this season and this offseason for potential trades. Now, obviously, the Lakers are trying to get a star, see them trying to get guys like, potential DeJounte Murray, but also the bigger fish in like a Trey and a Donovan Mitchell, right? So, ideally, Zach Lavine to me would be kind of at the bottom of the totem pole, right? Like, he wouldn't be like I would rather have Murray, Murray, Trey, and Donovan Mitchell before I'd go get Zach Lavine. But I don't think Zach Lavine would be the worst course of action, right? Like, if you told me tomorrow the Lakers traded for Zach Lavine, I wouldn't be upset about it. It just comes down to what would be the cost, which that's where I really lie at, right? Like, let's say you miss out on everyone else, right? If you could get Zach Lavine for like pennies on the dollar, I don't hate the idea, right? Like, because the biggest hurdle would be his contract, right? Got to match the $40 million that he's making. That's where it gets a little tough. But I don't think you'd have to trade 2-3 first round picks to go get him. I mean, I don't even think you'd have to trade one first to go get him. I mean, you're doing the Chicago Bulls a huge solid by basically just absorbing and taking on their salary, especially if you could work something out with like D'Lo. right, a lot of talks about like inflating D'Lo's contract. If you did something where you gave D'Lo, say, like 30 or 35 million, I think he can get to like 36 million, something like that. And you'd have to wait till like December or January. But like, that would also kind of give you time to see, like, okay, how does Zach Lavine look as far as like health wise goes? And then if you could basically turn D'Lo and like Jalen Hood Schifino into Zach Lavine, Chicago might do that. Maybe you throw him a couple seconds just for like good measure. But like, Chicago, because some people are going to be like, why would Chicago do that? Well, one, if they haven't moved off of him by then, chances are they're not moving off of him. And two, you'd be clearing off like 40 million in salary for the Chicago Bulls. That has a ton of value in and of itself because D'Lo would be an expiring 1-year deal. So that by itself has value, right? I mean, there's teams that give up first to acquire players like that. So you'd be doing a huge solid, and I think it'd be a win-win. To me, it would be more, and I'd be even open to giving up a first if you could get Caruso in the deal also. Like, so to me, it would be something like, can you use Zach Lavine as leverage to go get Alex Caruso? And now you have something like Caruso, Lavine, Vando, LeBron, and Anthony Davis. Like, to me, at that point, good luck, right? Like, I just think at that point, like, even the injury concerns and stuff are worth it. Because, I mean, Alex Caruso, he shot like 43% from three-point range this season. His versatility on the defensive side. I mean, with him, Jared Vanderbilt, and Anthony Davis, you're probably the best defensive team in the league, right? Like, literally the best defense. I mean, Lakers are a top defense with just Jared Vanderbilt and Anthony Davis. Imagine if you added Alex Caruso. You could also keep pretty much everyone else. Like I said, if you did some like type of inflated contract with D'Angelo Russell, maybe you throw in a Gabe Vincent at that point, or, whoever, right? You still could probably keep, an Austin Reeves or a Rui Hachimura. Maybe flip them elsewhere. But regardless, like if you could leverage Zach Lavine into getting and landing Alex Caruso on top of that, I would take the risk on Zach Lavine, right? Because I don't think Zach Lavine would be untradeable, right? Like, I don't think it's like a Bradley Beal situation, but like, I do think that it might be a little tough, but there's still teams. I still think a team, like Detroit might say, hey, you know what, we'll take him on. And like, if you look at the last few years, like people act like this guy, like Zach Lavine only plays 20 games a season. Now, Alex Caruso is a guy that plays a ton, right? Go get Alex Caruso. Even if the Lakers don't get Zach Lavine, I still love the idea of just going and getting Alex Caruso. But I'm saying, like, if you could use that to kind of leverage, like, hey, we'll gladly take Lavine because he does solve a lot for the Lakers. And, the injury history is just the concern. But, like, outside of this year, which he opted in to go have surgery. Like, surgery wasn't even, like, no one even thought he was going to have surgery until the Detroit rumors came up, which is why I think it's a little fishy. But even then, like, you look at the previous year, he played 77 games, 67 games, right? 58 games, 60 games, 63 games, right? That's from 2018 on. So he's basically playing around league average for stars. That's why they set it to 65 games, because that's kind of the cutoff in which teams are playing for, right? Like, the days of stars playing 82 games is pretty much over, right? So as long as he's playing around like 60 to 65 games, obviously you want him to play closer to those 77 games, but as long as he's playing around 60, 65 games and is healthy come playoffs, I think you're in good shape, right? And then, with the Chicago Bulls, like, and him in the playoffs, I mean, the guy was a 19, 5, and 6 guy, had averaged a steal and half a block, shot 93% from the foul line. He had an EFG of 50%. He shot 46.2% from 2-point range, 37.5% from 3-point range on 6 field goal attempts. Like, good playoff performer. And he's a guy that, again, fits a lot of what the Lakers need. If he could come in and give you, 19 to 20 a game on efficiency, like, why wouldn't you want that? Now, again, I'm not saying that there's not like concerns and stuff, but my thing is like, okay, you could go and trade for a Trae Young, right? And end up having to sell the farm in order to do so. And then on top of that, like, now you got to kind of figure out and round out the rest of the roster. Or you could go get a Zach Lavine, who I think would, long term, yes, because the idea is like a Trey and Anthony Davis long term would be terrifying. But Zach Lavine gives you a guy, I'm not saying Zach Lavine's better than Trey, but I'm saying I think the concerns of fit, especially particularly with LeBron James, I don't think there's as much of a concern with. But if you could get Zach Lavine for basically the same players being moved out, but you also get to keep all your picks, or at least all your firsts. So now you have all your firsts for the future. Now you could actually draft your 17th pick if you wanted to, right? So you could go get a big man if you wanted to, or whomever, take the best player available, right? So now you could go get a guy, and you'd still have tradable picks. You'd still have all your young guys. You'd still have plenty of depth. I don't hate the idea. It's not my favorite. Again, it's not my favorite. It's, like I said earlier, it's towards the bottom of the totem pole for me, but I think you could do worse than that. And I think it would make some sense. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Are you somewhere in between? Do you like the idea of Zach Lavine? Do you think only if you can get Alex Caruso? Now look, if Chicago wants, I should also preference this. If Chicago's out here and they're like, we want 2 first and all that, then no, you hang up the phone. You tell them, have a good day, good luck to you. But if you can basically just hey, we're clearing off your salary books, and we'll throw you some seconds, especially with the new CBA. Seconds are a lot more valuable now than they've ever been. It's okay, well, cool. I'm okay with doing something like that. But if you have to give up a bunch of firsts and stuff, again, to me, it's you're doing Chicago more of a favor than you're doing yourself a favor. But I think if it works, again, look out. But anyway, again, love your thoughts, opinions, however you feel, down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.